Hello YouTube, and welcome to this new LODcast. This week I'm introducing it, and you probably know who I am, I hope. If not, then I'll be very sad. But I'm Imperial Knowledge, and I'm joined today in the third episode of the LODcast by Kuyo from the HB channel, Talks from the HB channel, Lady of Scrolls from our own channel, and my best big friend in the world of history, Mr. Biggie 15. And that said, we will be talking about some very interesting subjects today, and I'll pass the mic to Kuyo.
Yeah, okay, so our guest today is Lady of Scrolls. She's like the second female lore YouTuber I've seen in ages. And
Wait, there's another one?
Yeah, it's yeah.
She's not a lore YouTuber though.
Lady of Scrolls, you're no longer my friend.
Oh no.
Yeah, okay, so Lady of Scrolls. Okay, we need a shorter way of saying that.
You can just say
Loss.
Yeah, LOS.
Okay, Lady of Scrolls, what exactly do you do?
Well, I just do very, basic Elder Scrolls content. I just kind of, do some research on Elder Scrolls, and then I just make a little bit, a 5 to 10 minute video on it, and that's about it. I haven't really expanded too much into other territories at the moment, so.
And speaking of which, what do you want to expand into? Because there's a lot of stuff to go through this on, production value, audio. Well, your audio is pretty good, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I use, the most basic of software. I literally just use, Windows Movie Maker, which is kind of pathetic, but, I don't really think much about it. I'm just whatever, I'll just fucking put it together. But, I do have, other software I want to try out. There's this one called, DaVinci that's really nice. And
yeah, that's what I use.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ones that I kind of want to, explore and maybe try out some different stuff.
I'd say in general, DaVinci is always the best free software.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people said. I downloaded it, and I kind of, I opened it and played around in it, and then I was I don't know what to do. So I figured I'll just look up some tutorials sometime, figure it out. But yeah, so eventually I think I'll either change the format of my videos or just kind of gradually improve different stuff. So, but yeah, I don't know if I want to expand more on the same stuff I've been doing or do more Elder Scrolls related stuff. I might do art, or I might do live streams, or I might just do gameplay or something. But other than that, I haven't really thought too far into it. I think I'm just more focused on just the current stuff that I'm doing. But eventually I'll expand, but it's not something I'm totally thinking about at the moment.
Yeah, okay.
I want to do a Let's Play. Hello, I do Let's Plays.
Yes. So it's, I haven't thought too much about it, but I'm I'll
So
figure
what
it out.
got you into YouTube in the first place?
Boredom more than anything. I think I actually only really got into the Elder Scrolls recently. So I mean, I grew up with Elder Scrolls, Oblivion and Morrowind. I used to watch my sisters and my dad play it all the time. But it was such a boring game to watch. It wasn't until I really played it and I really got into it. And then I started watching Elder Scrolls content on YouTube, because I was playing Skyrim and characters would mention stuff. And I was what are they talking about? Who is RK? And so I would look it up, and then I'd be oh, this is actually really fascinating stuff. And I think I just I got into it, and then I was oh, I kind of want to make my own little video. And I just made my own thing just as a test. And then I was yeah, I kind of like this. So I've just kind of stuck to it. I haven't really been involved too much in Elder Scrolls, gameplay wise, but I still really enjoy just making little silly videos. But yeah, so I mean, I like YouTube a lot. It's a really fun platform to use, and it's more just out of boredom than anything. I'm not making money off of it. I'm not really into fame or anything, but I enjoy it. So.
Alright, so anyone else got questions for our guest?
The real question is, you into Tetris?
I play Tetris sometimes, but I'm not good at it.
Not a real gamer unless you play Tetris.
I bet you didn't even go to the World Championships of Tetris.
Trust me, this was the only.
Man.
This was the only question I had. I yield the rest of my time.
Oh, okay.
I have a question.
Mm?
If you were to be a Pokemon, which Pokemon would you be?
Oh,
It's the
easily
it's
Gengar.
Wait,
Gengar?
wait,
Okay.
Gengar?
I love Gengar.
All right.
Gengar's my favorite.
Fair enough. But Charizard or Lucario kind of guy, but I appreciate that.
Yeah. There's so many good ones.
Mr.
I wanna be a
HB
Farfetch.
Talks, man. Go ask your
Be a
questions.
Parasect.
I'm trying to think of one, but I can't come up with one that doesn't involve a direct comparison between Lady of Scrolls and Lad of Scrolls. I mean Zorkanov.
Hello.
Aw.
See, the name really catched on. Now I'm a
Yeah.
lad of scrolls.
I've adopted him under my disciple.
You
Uh,
adopted me.
Yeah.
Say I don't think that's how it works.
It's a role reversal, Zork. That's
I
just
think
how
he's
it
like
works
the
nowadays.
second evolution. Like, I don't know what the third evolution is, but I'm like the
That's Zarek.
Yeah.
don't become a Zark.
No, Xerxes,
Oh, no.
Xerxes the Hackeron is legitimately. I'm gonna be real with y'all for a second. I legitimately enjoy him, like just because he's not like hiding who he really is 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Hiding the fact that he's a douche.
Yeah, at least he's a douche and he's true about it. Unlike most of the
He's
Fez
honest.
community.
I like,
He's an honest-
ironically, I ironically like his humor, but I also, I don't know, I don't have a real problem with him, I guess.
Okay, so memes aside, let's move on to the next section. Mr. HB.
Yeah.
So, as you know, on this show, we have a more or less podcastly session where we talk about what's going on. So, I'm going to start off by saying, have you guys heard of PewDiePie versus the washout Will Wheaton?
I
I don't
haven't.
watch PewDiePie.
All right, for all of you uneducated and or uncultured enough, basically, Will Wheaton went on an inflammatory rant saying he doesn't want to be seen recommended by he doesn't want Facebook to recommend stuff to him that's linked to a quote unquote bigot like PewDiePie. And once people have like brought up that a lot of the stuff that he's quoting is false information, he's gone on a tirade saying he doesn't care, and it doesn't matter if PewDiePie's donating millions because other non-racist people could do it too. So he's basically digging himself a hole. What do you guys think about this kind of thing? Do you think that some celebrities should just shut the hell up and move on with their life?
Maybe we should just like end J.K. Rowling's career.
Oh my god.
I'm so on board with that.
According to J.K. Rowling, we're all gay.
It's
Oh,
true.
All along.
No
It's
thanks.
true. Guys, it's true. We were gay the entire time.
Dobby has a 40-inch dick and you know it.
No.
I'm gonna have to cut that out.
I'm gonna find that meme. Give me a...
Good.
So what do you guys think of this entire situation? Do you think the media is pulling on Will Wheaton a bit too much? Do you think that it's unjust? What do you thought?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not totally familiar with the whole situation, but I just the way Facebook and YouTube and like Google, the algorithm is so like, I know like there's a lot of like, trying to think of the word, like stuff around it that is kind of controversial, but like I know like Google kind of manipulates like people with their searches, and I know like Facebook probably does the same, and like they show you different stuff that's like celebrities going on with them, and a lot of people really don't care, and it's like sometimes it can be in your face and whatnot, and so, but I'm not totally familiar with the whole situation at hand, so I can't really say too much about it.
I mean, is your main point about the fact that PewDiePie is being taken out of context, or about the Facebook thing?
I
I
think
think it's a little bit of both. It's more on the context bit, but it is a bit about the Facebook thing too.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can't really say much about the Facebook thing because I'm not using Facebook, but I
Yeah.
know that PewDiePie is basically always being taken out of context. Like, I don't watch him a lot. I watch his videos sometimes and I enjoy some of them, but I know that he's, in general, a pretty okay guy who, I mean, his sense of humor is not for everyone, but I mean, if there's anything he doesn't do is that he's not actively spreading hate. So, I mean, in that,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like when people are being taken out of context, especially when they're like a creator, but, you know, it's life. And you need. I mean, I think just before we should scrutinize people, you should just check out their content for yourself instead of believe whatever the fuck people are writing. But that's basically.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I don't watch him either. So I don't really have too much. And the one thing I did watch of PewDiePie, it wasn't even in one of his videos. It was in an iDubbbz video where he just roasted the shit out of somebody. I don't remember who it was.
I love iDubbbz.
And it was hilarious. That is the only time I've ever seen PewDiePie. I don't really pay attention to his content too much. So I agree with Ozork. Just dive into the content first before you like judge somebody.
Yeah. Make your own like judgments based off of watching
I think that this is this will help us segue a bit, but in general, I think this all comes down to a fight between new and old media, which has always been what YouTube's been up against. And in general, the fact that someone's taken out of context is legitimately just them grasping at straws. Like, there's not really much you can do. Like, if I say, oh, I hate Argonians, and then someone's going to equate that to me actually being racist. That's legitimately how it works. Like, I've seen it myself personally on Discord all the time, where people say, hey, if you make jokes about not liking Argonians, you are actually racist in real life. And I'm like, okay, sure, go for it.
Didn't you actually get hate for the last couple of videos
I get hate. I get hate all the time for this kind of stuff.
No, I'm talking about like legitimate hate, not jokes.
Let me just be like, as someone who is pretty interested in this whole situation with new and old media, let me just be devil's advocate for a moment. That for some people, like, there's currently a culture of people who are, I mean, you can say whatever you want about them, but they have pretty edgy humor. The problem is, I mean, those kind of jokes, they fall within that culture. The problem is that there's also people making those jokes who are not really within the edgy culture and who make those kind of jokes just because they are racist. Like, the problem is that, like, the media, they want clicks. So what they will do is they will associate everyone with the people who are serious, and that's not a good thing, because that's just not good journalism. But the thing is that it's not always harmless. I mean, some people, if they make a joke, it's harmless. But there's also people who actually have bad intentions and who frame it as a joke. And I mean, those people exist. And I can't really blame journalists for looking for those kind of people, because it's basically their job to root out the bad people and the corrupt people in society. But then again, they should do a better job in finding out who is actually meaning it and who isn't.
I have to disagree with you right there, because I genuinely feel like that's just bad journalism when you're looking for someone to attack rather than telling the truth of the story. When you're trying to find out the tirade and make clicks, then you're just a bad journalist. And that's kind of where yellow journolism comes in.
As someone who isn't going into journalism, that's why I went to college, right? So the way it is structured to a way where people don't read news anymore, so you want to get what's going to get the most attention. So you put in a clickbait title, or you put in the most controversial thing. That way you get the most people looking at your article. People don't read too much into things anymore, so you're going to put whatever is going to be the most controversial thing, because there is a popular saying in news: any media is good media. Bad attention is still good attention, because people are still looking at your article.
Yeah.
On that note, I feel like this is the perfect point for us to jump into our next topic: YouTubers and selling out.
Okay, so since I kind of brought this up, in general, I just wanted to talk about like the state of how Tez and just YouTubers selling out in general works. Like, let's say, for example, let's look at someone like Mr. Matty Plays. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he's a Tez YouTuber, Fallout, and basically he is a Bethesda shill to the max. That is until Fallout 76 got backlash, and he was like, "Oh, my audience is gonna leave me unless I stop shilling. God, I better start saying the game is trash." And that's what happened.
On that note, if we're talking about people like that, we can even take examples like
Oxhorn. Okay, so I actually have a lot more to say about Oxhorn. So Oxhorn on 76, he said it was an absolutely great game in his review, and we actually didn't find out that he was shilling until in the most recent Fallout 76 update, he was added as a cameo in one of the missions.
Oh my gosh.
I was actually going to bring up that if you looked at his uploads and how he's been talking about the games, for a while in his, because I used to watch his weekly, I think it's a weekly podcast that he does, it's like Scotch and Smoke Rings. For a while, it seemed as though it was very genuine, and it was I'm fairly sure for a while it was very genuine, but right before 76 launched, you saw this shift in the way that he would talk about the games. He wouldn't talk negative about any of the Bethesda titles anymore. There wouldn't be things that we nitpick and say that this should get changed because this doesn't make the players happy. A little bit before 76 actually dropped, he just started going full Bethesda mode. Bethesda makes the best games. The reason that they screw up their lore is because, well, they know best and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's issues like that that I feel are a bit really toxic to not just the Elder Scrolls community, but I feel like a lot of communities in general. Like, you'll see YouTubers out there that are selling themselves more or less for pennies for the dumbest of reasons, depending on whatever community you are.
Yeah.
It gets fairly ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what kind of, I guess, what your definition of it. I get like sponsored videos and things like that. I get that all the way. I've seen a lot of gaming channels sponsor a game and they'll talk about it. But I mean, at the same time, you kind of review with a grain of salt because it is an opinion. So I mean, whether or not someone's actually lying or telling the truth, like it regardless of which, you don't necessarily have to agree or follow that person. You have to go into multiple reviews if you actually want a real one. Like, going into whether or not someone nitpicks is kind of besides the point.
No, I don't think that's entirely what I was getting at. It's more, you can see that their attitudes shift as they're now being, in a way, sponsored by these AAA companies, like what I was saying with Oxhorn. And I might get a lot of backlash and hate for this, but I genuinely feel, since his more lax opinion of Bethesda, his overall like quality of content has dropped a bit, just because he's not as critical. He doesn't look at everything with a critical eye with his lore stuff anymore. But then again, I guess that could just be me, or...
Well, I know that there's YouTubers that don't really enjoy making videos anymore, but they just keep doing it because it's their job now. I mean, you go work at like a restaurant, and I mean, in the first couple of weeks you may enjoy it, but then later you may not enjoy it anymore. But you can't quit because you need the money to keep paying for your house. And I mean, definitely, if you're a YouTuber that no longer enjoys making his content and that's used to having a lot of money from YouTube, I mean, you can say about me whatever the fuck you want, but the money isn't good. If I wanted to make a lot of money, then I would go work at a store, because then I would get more than I get from YouTube, definitely. But I mean, YouTubers that have a lot of money coming their way out of ad revenue, out of sponsorships, out of whatever, I really can't blame them for taking those kind of sponsorships where they are basically forced to say positive things. Like, if you no longer enjoy making your content anyway, and you're just doing it because it's your job, then you take everything that's coming towards you. I mean, I can sort of get that sentiment. Like, I don't agree with it, and it's not personally how I would handle it, because again, your fans are going to lose their trust in you. And I don't really think that's a way to keep growing your channel. I think that being honest in those kind of regards, or just not saying anything about it regarding your opinion, that's a better way to keep your fans to you, because then they can at least keep trusting you. Yeah. But especially if you no longer like doing what you do and it's just your job at this point, then I can understand at least the sentiment that you would take all those sponsored content. I don't agree with it, but I mean, I can understand where they come from in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could too.
Well, okay, if that's all we have to talk about it, yeah, let's move on to the next topic. Zork, take it away.
So, next we're moving to the lore segment. As always, we have chosen some cool lore things to talk about. But, let's start with the first topic that was requested by, I think, either Mr. Kuyo or Mr. HB, Necromancy in the Elder Scrolls. What exactly do you guys want to talk about in regard to Necromancy?
I actually brought up this topic, and I wanted to, considering that last week we were discussing, last podcast really, we were discussing how the soul ends up in the soul cairn and all that mumbo jumbo. I was wondering, how does necromancy work in the Elder Scrolls altogether? Like, are you bringing the soul back into the body? Are you just infusing the body with energy, or what's up with that?
Kind of talked a little bit on necromancy with the last video I worked on, and it's a little weird how necromancy is. It's not something that was accepted at first. Obviously, it's still not accepted, but as the Alliance War due to ESO and like the Order of the Black Worm or the Worm Cult, it really kind of made necromancy widespread. And how it was, it's more or less taking kind of the essence of what makes up a soul and kind of an object, right? And a soul gem is designed to be able to carry that kind of essence. I don't really know how the soul gem's design works and how it's constructed, but they're specifically engineered to be able to harbor this kind of energy. And I think the only way of getting it back is to transfer it into another object rather than a living thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's like you manipulate the soul and the corpse. I don't know if they just... Like, I guess it's like you just fill it with magicka and it just runs off of magicka or something. But, I mean, it's all really fascinating. Like, I don't know... Because I know, like the Slode, for example, are so good at necromancy. And I don't... Like, they can raise, like, whole armies and stuff. And it's just like, it's kind of fascinating, like, that there's different skills of necromancy. Like, you can reanimate a dead body with just, like, doing that. And then there's, like, there's so many different levels of necromancy that it's like, it becomes its own. It's like, you know, like you have, like, conjuration, you have alteration. It's like necromancy is almost like its own thing by that point. But it's, I don't know, I feel like it's really complicated. And I think the games don't explore too much into it. They just give you background lore on it, but they don't. I don't think they explain too much, like, on how it's perceived across all of Tamriel.
I was actually going to make a comment. The way that I like two possible solutions as it could be. One is whenever you animate a corpse or it dies, there's a chance that in the games it'll say "thank you" as it's, you know, being put out of its misery.
Oh yeah.
So I think that one possible way it could be is you're literally bringing the soul back into the body
to do work. Yeah.
Yeah. Or another way is like you're channeling the body itself, just like filling it with magicka and reanimating and bringing its memories and everything back, where its soul is still trapped in the soul cairn.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at this current moment in time, having the conversation with Aramithius last time, I'm trying to rectify which way it goes.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, so on that, I have a lot to say about this. In general, we actually do learn how necromancy works. Basically what happens is that...
Daggerfall or Oblivion?
It's in Skyrim, Dawnguard. So basically, in general, what's happening is you're making a deal with the Masters of the Soul Cairn. I forgot their exact name. It was something Masters.
Ideal Masters.
So basically, actually, that's just what they want you to see. Anyways, so basically, you make a deal with them, and what they are doing is they are basically they're filling the gem up with energy. Like it's an unsaid law or kind of binding thing that gives the soul gem its power. And I think this also plays into the talk about consciousness in the Elder Scrolls that we were talking about last time, which is how can the body still say thank you even though their soul has been removed? Because that you see the souls in the soul cairn, even if they aren't like talking, they're still trying to attack you or something. They'll do something, but the fact is the souls are still there, and somehow they can still talk. So I think there is some sort of duality to that. Once again, Aramithius kind of did talk about that. He kind of did.
Aramithius?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that. But in general, we do know the kind of, well, at least what we've played, we know how it works.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot that isn't really explained. There's a bit in the SO. I haven't actually dug into that, but yeah.
Yeah, I haven't either. I was doing a few quests that involve like the Slode and stuff. I think it was in the Somerset DLC. I just started it and I was just kind of amazed. But yeah, I had only just started getting into it, and I don't remember exactly what the quest was going on. But yeah, it's I don't know. And then you get into like the whole ethics about necromancy as well, because it's like, you know, it's kind of a taboo thing in the Elder Scrolls universe for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's complicated though. So I don't know if we'll have either in the Elder Scrolls 6, like if we have more, we find out more about it, and whether like if it is set in Hammerfell, like everyone's kind of going on about, like, and magic is so kind of not much of a thing there, and you know, like I'm just curious how they're going to go about doing stuff like that, like having necromancy and stuff, or even all of the magic. Anyway.
Yeah, so Zork, do you have anything to say on that?
Well, the thing is that I did a video on Necromancy a while back. The problem is I completely forgot what was in it. Like I currently have a complete blackout. I'm thinking, what was in that video? Like whenever I'm having an exam or something, like that feeling of blackout, I'm having that right now.
Oh no.
Caroline, please help me. If any Dutch people watch this podcast, they'll understand what I just said about Caroline, so you should leave it.
We don't get blessed with
please leave it in. Only Dutch people will understand, but they'll find it hilarious.
I actually feel like a lot of our viewers are European, so they might get it.
No, this is a specific Dutch thing. Like, it's really specific. But they'll get it.
So I think we spent enough time on necromancy. We could have dug into a bit more, but I have something that's a lot more meatier here. Chim.
Good.
Chimney,
No.
chimchery.
No. That is a topic that is like 40 videos long. You can't start talking about Kim and like have a 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay, so in general, I know a lot of people don't like this. This is kind of in the Coda sphere, but it's not, because we have written documentation in games on this. So
yeah.
Chim, for anyone who doesn't know and hasn't seen my
hasn't
seen my like 15 videos on Chim and Coda, essentially it's the concept that if one endures the Psijic Endeavor, we don't even know what the Psijic Endeavor entails. In general, it's the concept that you can achieve godhood, but there's also a lot more to it. There's things like how it works. Like, for example, we know Talos achieved Chim, and it was done retroactively. We also know that Cameron, what's his name? The other great necromancer.
Manamarco?
Yeah, we know Manamarco also achieved it, but retroactively. This is kind of
Manamarco did a lot of things, though. Like, he literally is a moon.
Yeah, but in
like,
general...
no shit, the guy is a moon. He's like in the Adrasphere instead of like in Oblivion. He's in Argus as a fucking moon, whereas every other thing that achieves Kim either has a pocket Oblivion realm or has an Oblivion realm.
What do you mean? Well, no. Okay, Vivek. Actually, this is kind of what I wanted to...
He has a pocket realm of Oblivion.
Vivek does not have a pocket realm of Oblivion. He has a pocket realm of the Void.
What do you...
No. Oblivion isn't the Void. This is outside of Orbis. Now, this is actually one of the books.
But like that...
It's in the 36th lesson or the 37th, because that's canon too. But in general, Vivek, after achieving
Are we talking about the one where he talks about how he basically made love to Molag Bal and like then murdered his children?
But so basically, I want to talk more about Vivek, and we find out that he's kind of done a lot of stuff in attempting to achieve Amaranth, which is this is a little more higher level, but it's just in general trying to become the dreamer within the dream. And I'll link a video at this part, a couple of videos honestly, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into becoming Amaranth, and Chim is a part of it. And I think that just in general, the topic of Chim is something that a lot of people tend to overlook, despite it having had such major effects on the TES universe, like Cyrodiil just not being a jungle anymore. I mean, of course,
All of Cyrodiil.
Yeah.
All of Cyrodiil.
that was okay.
It's
I'll be honest,
gone.
that was bad writing because it was a cover up, and the fact that they wanted to make Oblivion more medieval fantasy and lots of bloom and
Yeah.
stuff. But in general, I think there is a lot to do with Chim, and people just kind of brush it off, and that makes me, Coda head Kuyo, very angry. So, and I want to hear
personally
thoughts.
I personally feel like the reason people brush off Kim, this isn't talking about Kim specifically, this is just why people brush it off, is because it's not specifically canon, but something that we've been seeing that I know Kuyo likes this a lot is in Elder Scrolls Online, which is a canon game, they're
Yeah.
implementing Coda heavily.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. I think they're doing themselves a really good thing that they're going back to the way a lot of the lore was written for Morrowind, and something that made Morrowind so great was its outlandish concepts.
Yeah, and it wasn't
And-
just basic fantasy.
Exactly.
Like, it wasn't the same fantasy that we see all the time. It kind of made it unique.
God bless Michael Kirkbride. I know Zork hates him.
I don't hate the man.
I have a picture saved of Michael Kirkbride on his desk with his,
Bottle of
smoking his...
vodka. Yeah.
I love that image.
I mean, I don't hate the man. He wrote some things in the lore that even contradicts his own shit. So I
Well,
mean-
okay, that's him playing into the unreliable
He wrote
narrator.
everything in the lore.
No,
Yeah.
so a lot of the cool stuff that involves Tez really does come from him, and some stuff that Lauren Schick did before he left Sauce. It's always stuff that's weird, and it
Yeah,
always
it's-
ends up being the hook in most games. Like in the case of Morrowind, the hook was the fact that, well, at least for one of the DLCs, it was the fact that your own wife is killing the person that she cheated on you with, and you have to kill her now.
Yeah.
So Zork, what do you think?
Well, to be very specific, I can only say that it's absolutely not my expertise, and I don't know which parts are canon and which are not. I know that a lot of people think that it's all canon, and I know that there's a lot of people that dismiss all of it. And I think that before I can say what's canon and what's not, that it would require me to read it all. Problem is that I have purposefully chosen for it not to be my speciality within the lore realm, because it's one of the points that interests me less. So I'm not specifically saying that some things are not canon. I know that a lot of people really dismiss it, and I know that from what I have read of it, I find some things overcomplicated for the sake of overcomplication. But that doesn't mean that I have the right to say what's canon and what's not. And I think that each and everything should be judged on an individual basis. And that you can't just say, oh, because it's made by Michael Kirkbride, it isn't canon. No, everything should be judged on individual basis. Just like people saying, well, everything that's written by, or what's the American equivalent? Okay, let's say everything that's said by Fox News, for example, is bad. There's probably a lot of bullshit in it. I don't watch it because I'm Dutch.
Yeah.
And we have normal news. But there's probably things that are true, and there's probably things that aren't true, and everything should be judged on individual basis. And in that sense, I don't think that I can make the overgeneralization to immediately say that everything's not canon. But I can say that I'm personally not very interested in it, and the things that I have seen don't seem like canon to me. But then again, I don't know enough about it to be able to back that up with facts.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same point. Like, there's so many. I haven't really delved too much into Coda. I just I don't know. I don't want to get so I don't want to get my brain to melt a bit, but I'm fascinated by all of it, and I guess everyone has their own headcanon as well, because so many people try to insert a lot of their own headcanons, and it kind of overcomplicates things. So there's some things that I really want to consider canon, but I don't want to just be this is canon. But I don't know. I haven't done too much research on all of it, really. I've really only delved slightly into it, and people be like, oh, can you talk about Kim and can you talk about Amaranth and Talos and all that? And it's I do want to talk about it, but I don't want to spread anything that might or may not be misinformation. So it's like I love like going on Reddit or going on forums or going on places where people talk about it, and there's a lot of interesting ideas where people kind of like put their own perspective on it, and I just kind of leave it at that. Like I would love to kind of like delve more into it, but I don't want to overcomplicate it or exhaust it and kind of start incorporating my own canon or something, which is what some people tend to do sometimes when they're talking about it. But it's, I don't know, I still have to really even look into it before I can really make an interjecture on it. Like I can't totally pinpoint if I don't know too much about it beforehand. So, but it's all very interesting though. Like I love it, but it's I usually just go by what is established in the books and what's in the games and what we've seen in the games, and just in my own thoughts, I just keep all of the extra, whether it's Michael Kirkbride's writings or just other kind of scraps of stuff that's Elder Scrolls related. I kind of keep in the back of my mind while doing research as well. So I don't know. It's quite complicated, but you know, it goes deep.
There's just one last thing that I want to add, and I promise it's not too long. Some of the trends that I have been getting in some parts of the community, not saying all, or at least things that I've heard that happened, because I am personally not too involved in those kind of parts of the community, but I know a lot of people who do, and I get bombed with DMs from way too many people, and a lot of people are unfortunately within those kind of communities and then are disappointed. I can't say much about it, but the point that I want to make is that there are people who are favoring out-of-game and unofficial content over the officially established things within the games that are official, and those things sometimes contradict each other, and then some people say, well, the thing that's out of game and unofficial is canon. I know that it happens, and that I find a problem, because if we go on that train and we're going to say that, for example, just because you don't like it, ESO or Test Legends or Test Blades is not canon because it's a spin-off, or, well, Bethesda is going to base their lore on those kind of games, and is going to base their lore for Elder Scrolls 6 on the most recent things, and is most likely not going to make it based on the out-of-game things. And the thing that I'm worried about is that there are people who are going to say, well, Test 6 is not canon because it contradicts too much of my own headcanon. That's the only worry that I have with it. And further, people should just do whatever feels good.
See, I have two things to put in there. Firstly, shameless plug. If you want to watch Coda shit, my channel exists for a reason. Well, it's Kuyo stuff mostly, but we talk a lot about Coda for anyone who is wondering about it. And secondly, I think as far as canonicity is concerned, true canon is exactly what Bethesda puts in the game, even if it contradicts something that came before, simply because they own the rights.
Yeah.
And regardless of what the fan base has to say about it, because I know I've watched several videos from Zarx and Hakaran where he's adamant that this shouldn't be canon or that shouldn't be canon because it makes no sense in continuity, but because Bethesda owns the copyright and they own the title and they own the property, they get to control what is and is not.
I agree with that.
As far as everyone's personal taste to it, I think simply because of the way that we as humans tell stories, we have to make everything fit into a continuity. That's up to your personal discretion. If you want your personal story of this to make it flow, you can, because I know personally, even with all the stuff that seemingly makes no sense, you can make it work in the larger scope of things by saying, well, there's phenomenon in this world that are explained as such, and that's why these two contradicting concepts come together. For instance, crap, I was gonna bring it up. The Underking. There's a concept of the Underking being both Eastmere Wolfarth and Zurin Arctis.
Yeah.
And they are, in canon, two people at once. But at the end of Daggerfall, it's revealed that it doesn't really matter because he gets, murdered. And in a way, it's from the second game that they've produced that they're setting up this precedent where, yeah, two things can exist contradicting each other at the same time, but who cares? It's a fun game.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message we should really be taking from it. Is just like, shut up and enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's something that I would like to say about that, because if we were to say, well, story doesn't matter, just enjoy the game, then we would all be out of a job.
Well, no, not the story bit. I'm just saying, like, just shut up and enjoy the game for what it is. Like, there's no reason to, like, nitpick. Well, this example doesn't match everything else that's been said, and thus it ruins the game. Like, I remember, I know a lot of you guys don't do Fallout lore and stuff, but...
Oh, I know, there's a lot of contradictions.
Oh, God.
A lot. I agree fully on the whole enjoy the game and
Yes.
do not enjoy the game because there are
Exactly.
contradictions in it. But
I mean,
the thing is that as someone who is like, I usually just describe my channel as like the recent history of the Elder Scrolls, because that's the thing that I study most, because it's simply most interesting to me since it's most political. But as someone who is in that context a sort of historian, continuity does sort of matter, because you need to find out what really happened, and then there can be contradicting stories, and then usually one is either a lie and then the other is the truth, or maybe none of them are the truth. And that's a way to frame that, like, okay, there's a contradiction here in, for example, a book, and then you can just say, well, that's a misinterpretation by the writer, like that's the viewpoint of the writer. I don't know how it was called in English, like the bias writer.
Bias. Yeah, I see that a lot in books too, in the Elder Scrolls series. Like it's like its own propaganda almost.
Yeah. But the problematic part comes when gameplay of one game contradicts the gameplay of another. And that's where I usually just stay out of it, because I don't want to encourage more people just nitpicking the game because they don't want to enjoy the game because there are contradictions. So in that sense, I completely agree with it. But in story sense and in background information sense, I can't really agree with it, because it's kind of my job of the channel to make sure that all the contradictions are in such that I can connect the dots in such a way that it makes at least sort of sense. And yeah, I don't know if that was a coherent point or not. I'm probably not good enough in English to convey the point that I wanted to make.
Like, I get what you're trying to say with, like, trying to make it into one cohesive thing, but I think the biggest thing that you have to know about anthropology just in general, that includes history, it would be that there's no such thing as a concrete truth, because everyone tells their version of the story differently. And that's something that I think we have to understand about the way that the Elder Scrolls is written. It's written from the viewpoint of the unreliable narrator, where it's...
Yeah, that was the word I meant.
This source says that. And because of that, the way that I usually take the information given in the games, if it's not something like, this item appeared 400 years before it's supposed to, that's clearly Bethesda messing up. But, like, information within the games, it's usually that I usually take it as, well, this one person interpreted it differently, therefore no big whoop.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is a good point to jump into the next segment.
Yeah.
Firstly, this is what we want to talk about, because, Lady Scrolls, this is your first time here. I'm just going to give you a little rundown. In this section, we're just basically going to talk about whatever, for however long, as long as it's under 40 minutes. You get that, Zork?
Yeah, I get it.
All right, Zorkanov, you are up first. What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about my new controller that I got and about my own lore book.
Wait, is this official Zorkanov merchandise?
No, because I can't sell it, because if I sell it, then Bethesda Ninja will kill me in the ass.
Actually, technically, I think you're allowed to publish...
no, there's a lot of copyrighted material in this. I like images. I cannot sell this, I will die. But yeah, I wanted to talk about mainly my controller. Just show of my book since it arrived today. And I don't really want to talk about the book any other, because I'm going to make a dedicated video to it some time in the future. But I wanted to show off my very nice new controller, and that was basically all I had to say. I yield the remainder of my time to the next speaker.
And speaking of merchandising, I wanted to bring up, as a YouTuber, when should you start merchandising? And
Don't.
I know Zork's opinion on this is no, but I feel like there's certain YouTubers that make it so it's like merchandise is like a prominent center of what they do. And I wanted to get your guys' opinion on it.
Well, let me just open my statement with the fact that I think that it's a bad idea for anyone under 100k to do merch. It's a reason why I haven't done it, even though people asked for it. And I even got into contact with someone who works at YouTube to ask, what do you think? And he said, merchandise is literally one of the worst ways, because if you underestimate your own audience's willingness to pay for your stuff, you're gonna have a bad time, because you're gonna need to invest in it. I mean, let's take my book, for example. And let's just forget about the copyright for 1 minute, because that's a whole different story. But this book, if I would want to sell it on a reasonable price, and that would mean, I think, a little above $10, considering the current quality of the book itself, like the good paper, hardcover, etc. If I were to want to sell that, then the production costs would be around $10, and I would probably, €10, I mean, and then I would probably sell it at a little over that to make at least a little bit of profit and to get my whole costs to break even, because there's some costs that are involved in the making of this kind of merch, because this is the kind of merch that is like the heart of what you're doing, because it's filled with lore and shit. It's not just like a hat or a pen. It's literally a book that I worked on, and I can sell it, and people would have the experience of a video in their hand. Now, the thing is, I have 22,000 subscribers, about 2,000 to 3,000 loyal watchers, I hope at least. And from those people, there's only a very small margin that will buy. I held a poll once on my channel, and about 60% of the people reacting to the poll, and I believe 2,000 people reacted, 60% of those people would be interested in a lore book written by me. Now, funny thing is, those people are interested, but they won't immediately buy it. Most of them won't buy it at all. They would think, well, that would be cool to have, but I'm not going to spend money on that.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is that there's a very, very, very precocious line where you have to produce your books and then you can sell them. You can't sell them and then produce them. You need to show what you got. If you produce too much, which everybody does, almost everybody, unless you produce like a really, really small margin. But if you really want to make money on merch, you're going to have to produce a lot and sell a lot, because producing really small quantities is just really expensive and you're not going to break even on that. The problem is, if you're below 100k subs, you're not going to have those books sold. Even if you just make 100, you're not going to have them sold. Because even 100 would essentially usually be very expensive to make still, and then only a couple will get sold and you won't break even. Well, for example, something like a Patreon, where you can offer exclusive content, that doesn't require an investment. So for smaller channels, that's a better way to at least get something outside of ad revenue, because ad revenue is all bullshit at this moment. So really, merch, you should only do it when you have a large audience and you have an audience that really yearns for your shit that you make as merch. Like, for example, a lore book if you're a lore channel. And even then, there's only a very small percentage that will actually buy it. So if any of you are looking into doing merch, I urge you to do not. Because you won't break even and you will lose money. And unless you just want to get your stuff as a memorabilia out there, you shouldn't do it. If you want to make a profit, don't do merch before you're at least 100,000. That's the thing that I hear from a lot of people, and after looking into the economics, I cannot do anything else but agree.
I wouldn't really make merch. I don't really know what I would do. But I think depending on the platform that you do sell your merch on, like I've used this one thing, I think it's owned by Amazon, called Redbubble, where like the company, you just like, especially, I'm also kind of an artist, sort of, like I also draw and make art. So like sometimes you can put your art on like a t-shirt or a little mug, or like people can get a art print and stuff, and then if somebody buys it, you make like percentage off of it. So I say like, if you're like an artist or something, that could be a way to make merch. Is like if you have like a logo, or somebody wants your art on like a notebook or something that they can have, like you make like a 20% kind of cut off of it. And I've actually made like some money off of it. Like I just have a personal like Redbubble account where I sell like my art printed on stuff, and I've made a little bit on it, and I've never even advertised for it or anything. Like somebody probably just searched in the tags or just found it or something. But I think there's ways to do merch, but if you're not involved in like art or music or something, or like certain hands-on skills or something, it's kind of hard to like some people can make really impressive like little clay figurines or something and be like, yeah, I have this, check it out.
Yeah, okay, so with that, we can hop on to our final bit, the lightning round, the part that everyone loves and no one actually hates.
Oh.
I hate it.
I don't know if I'm familiar with this.
You're not, because it's always at the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, so the lightning round is basically where we get questions from the communities, maybe the occasional question from one of us, and we have to answer them really fast because we're always like
out of time.
Yeah, we're always out of time.
That's an issue. That's definitely an issue.
So the first question is, who do you believe to be the thickest Elder Scrolls character? This is also a callback to the first episode of L&L.
Definitely Farengar.
Farengar, yes, of course, just like you said last episode, Zork. I see Farengar as a man of many talents.
Lurbuk from Morthal in the tavern there, and he sings. I hated killing him. He's the thickest, though.
Oh, I still believe that it is, what was his name? The last dwarf in Morrowind.
Yagrum Bagarn.
Yagrum Bagarn. Look at that. Oh, he's an absolute unit.
He's fucking daddy.
It's great. His voice is even better because it's like, yes. They got the best voice.
Yeah, he's top tier fucking Kim level shit.
Is this what Kim looks like?
Yeah.
No, next question. That time I beat Zork with my April Fool's post on TrueSTL.
I just wish to say on that I have conceded defeat.
Oh no!
I have already told you multiple times that in the realm of memes and being an absolute asshole, I mean, you cannot be beat. I have already given it up. I mean, there's no way that I'm gonna be a bigger asshole than you are, so why should I even try?
Oh no. I love TrueSTL though. It's so good. It truly is I love it.
If only the Reddit app would work on my phone, I would be there more often.
Oh no.
Okay then. And then the last question, since I couldn't find any more. What do you think, do you think Morrowind will ever recover from the Red Year?
I think it will take a lot of time. But I mean, I guess we'll see by Elder Scrolls 6, depending on how far ahead they put it. So I think they certainly can. If they can recover from... Didn't erupt like multiple times too. Well, I'm pretty sure there was...
First time it was Bardois, whatever the asteroid was. That Vivek decided to hold Vivek City with like as a threat over. That crashed. That kind of destroyed the entire coast. And then the volcano went off because that crashed.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that, they can.
Yeah, they'll figure something out.
We'll see what happens with the Argonians and their fucking sacrilege.
I personally, my take on this issue is that they probably already have recovered to some extent.
Yeah, it seems as though there's from what we've seen in Morrowind and in Solstheim at least for Skyrim, it seems as though they were recovering, and especially with like the recovery of the mine, it seems as though things are kind of looking up for the Dwemer, which is great for me because I'm a Dwemer supremacist. Not Dwemer, Dunmer. God damn it!
I was gonna say like they're back.
They're back. Yeah,
they're fucking back.
Yeah, but for me, being a Dunmer supremacist, that's actually a joke. I'm not an actual supremacist of anything. Good, just for people who like misconstrue what I'm saying. But I think it's a really good thing because they have the most interesting lore, in my opinion, and I want to see more of them.
Yeah, me too. I certainly would love to see even just all the races and how they're doing in the next Elder Scrolls. Like, see how if those Cyrodiils still exist. Like, has it been wiped off the map? You know, so I'm excited to see how all the boys are doing in the Elder Scrolls 6.
Alright, so with that, this has been a very tumultuous LODcast number 3. We've had multiple people leave. We could have talked more about lore. We ended up talking a lot more about canon and, well, actually that is kind of lore. But we talked a lot about YouTube stuff, so that's probably going to be the name. Lady of Scrolls, do you have anything you'd like to plug, talk about, or say before we end?
Not totally. I guess we can just wrap it up. I guess everyone, I wish you a good evening or a morning or day wherever you are in the world. So listening to this, so yeah, we can wrap it up there.
Go sub to her. We'll put links and stuff in the description like usual. Hey, Zork, you want to say something?
Well, of course I want to say something. I want to thank everybody for watching, and I want everybody to know that since all of the people that were today on the podcast, they weren't Tetris YouTubers, and that's why I cannot officially support them anymore. That's why I'll be officially retreating from the Elder Scrolls community this day, and I will only make lore videos on the Tetris bricks. Today we are starting, mind you, with the 4-square brick, and there's a whole story behind it, and you really don't want to miss it.
I hope there's the concept of Kim in the Tetris.
Yeah, he was sent to the ultimate brick.
Well, that story is the interesting one, because there's like a 5 blocks long brick, and nobody's ever seen it yet. But it's said that if you make 4 Tetrises in a row, then crash yourself into a garbage truck, then go to the hospital because you'll be dead. Then just before you die, you'll see the 5-layer brick, and you'll think, "That's my brick."
That's God.
I want to thank everybody for watching, and please don't worry about me. I'm still healthy, happy, and alive. And yeah, I'll see you in the next.
See you guys. Bye.
Slen Teed Fall Full side of a king Zuul Korav Nid Nol Dove to High.
Try me, and you'll regret it.
You do not even know our tongue, do you?
I fought wars more ferocious than you. I've got a bone for you. I don't have a lot of patience for questions, Outlander.